Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to install UV on your computer. There are multiple ways you can do that. I prefer to install it on my whole system. I will be using a Windows computer. I'm sure there are ways to do that in Linux and also the Mac OS. So here on my screen, I have the page to where UV is hosted, and the way I prefer to install it is by using Winget. If you are using a Windows computer, Winget tends to come with every installation of Windows. So I'm going to just copy this link here, get to my PowerShell. So I'm just going to enlarge it here and paste that using Winget. Winget will install that. I already have it installed, but I'm still going to install it again. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it says it has found an install package. So what it's going to do is it's going to try to upgrade the package instead. And here it has successfully done that because I already have, I had it previously before shooting this video. So if you didn't, yours will be different, but it's going to be something like this. Now, after you have installed UV on your Windows machine, you want to check out to see if it's installed correctly. So I will just clear my screen here and I'll go back to the page and see what commands I can copy. So there are different commands. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to type UV on my PowerShell and just see what I get. And the fact that I have so much output here telling me how to really use UV, it means I have installed UV correctly on my Windows machine. Before we jump into using Python packages, let us talk about UV. If you have used pip, you already know the drill. Installing and managing Python packages. But UV takes things to the next level with speed, efficiency, and built-in virtual environments. So what is UV? What exactly is UV? UV is a Python package manager built with Rust. Yes, the programming language Rust, designed to be a drop-in replacement for pip. That means it does everything pip does, but faster and smarter. So what makes UV special? Here is why I think UV is worth using. Speed. UV is much faster than pip thanks to Rust's performance. It is lightweight. It doesn't rely on setup tools, wheels, or PKG resources, making installations more efficient. It also has built-in virtual environments. Unlike pip, UV can create and manage virtual environments, meaning you don't need extra tools like venv or virtual env. If you're not familiar with virtual environments, they're a way to keep your Python packages, your projects separate. Each project gets its own set of dependencies, so you don't run into conflicts between different package versions. With UV, managing this environment is easier than ever. From now on, in all of my videos in this channel, I'll be using UV for package management. Unless a specific reason presents itself for me to use pip, I will stick with UV. Now that you know what UV is and why it is awesome, let's start using it. Stick around as we set it up and dive into some real-world examples. So I'm going to navigate into a folder where I tend to store projects that I'm working on. Some of them I share with you guys. And I'm going to create a new folder Or maybe what I will just do is I will just open a new terminal there. And this terminal now is in the folder. So I'm going to create a new directory. I will just say make dir, and what will I call it? UV packaging. I'll just call it that. And I'll just cd into that UV and hit my tab key. It's there. And then I will start up my VS Code. So here's my VS Code. We are in that new directory that I just created. It's called UV packaging. And then I'm going to open, or let's say I'm going to get access to my PowerShell from here. Remember I said I'm using Windows. And I'll come here. Some of that is warning me that there's no Python setup here, which is okay. So I can quickly just check if I have Python, because as you can see, I have my base here. That means I have Conda. Actually, I have Mamba, which is supposed to be a faster version of Conda. But then with UV, I just don't bother whether I'm using Conda or Mamba anyway. So I'm going to just type, let's see, Python. And you can see I already have Python 3.12 installed in here. And when I did that, or when the package came out and all that. And if I want to get out of here, I can tap quit and clear the screen. But how we're going to work here, we're not going to use the main Python that I have installed via Mamba. We're going to create a virtual environment so that whatever packages I install for this project will not have conflicts with the other packages, because sometimes when some packages are being upgraded, or if a new version of Python comes out, not every package is quick enough to catch up. So if you're working on various projects, sometimes you have conflicts of packages and dependencies. So that's why virtual environments were designed, and it's good practice to always use virtual environments for every project you're working with. So we showed earlier on, we're in a new directory. And if you check on the left here, you'll see that it's empty. There's nothing installed here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to initialize this directory for UV. And the way to do that is going to be UV init to initialize. And we have already seen that I have Python 3.12 or Python 3.12 installed on my machine via Conda or Mamba. But for this environment, I want to use a different version of Python. So I want to say use Python 3.11. So I'm going to just move here and change this to 3.11. We can actually say 3.13 if we want. And we're going to run. If you look on your left, you'll see a few more files were introduced in our directory. This one tells us what Python version we're using. This one creates a pyproject.toml file. The issues about toml is something else. But this is where we're going to store all our dependencies that we're going to use for this demo project. And here's a README file that sort of explains, you could use that to explain what this project is all about. Then we have the git ignore in case you want to move everything you're working with to your GitHub account. What packages out of all this would you not want to be moved up to your GitHub in case it's a public GitHub, keeping it private. People might have access to details you don't want them to see. You can include those here in the git ignore. And then here we have a test code for us to run that they provided for us. We can change that, or we could just delete it. But we are yet to create the Python environment. So what I'm going to do is, the way UV works, it's smart. It creates it for you. The fastest way to do that is to begin to add packages. And what I want you to do is to check our .toml file. Let me just shrink this down below. And then you check these dependencies. I will start adding some dependencies that I could use for this project. We're not doing anything, we're just installing on, showing you how it works. And you'll see as I'm installing them using UV, they will all appear here. And like we said, it's blazing fast. So I'll type UV add. And what could I use? I could use NumPy. I could use pandas. I could use matplotlib. I could use Seaborn. I hope this is a spelling. I could use scikit-learn. Right? Okay, scikit-learn. And I'm going to use something called IPY widgets, I guess. So I'll just add this few dependencies here. And all I want you to do is to keep your eyes here. And you see as I click enter here, the toml file will begin to automatically add all these dependencies for us to have a look. There you go. You can see them. They're being installed. And we have a pop-up telling us that we notice a new environment has been created. Do you want to select it for the workplace folder? And of course, I'll say yes. So from what we can see, everything has been installed. And then I will just say yes, and I'll activate it. So in Linux or in Mac OS, that's the way you activate your environment, which is different from the way you do it on Windows. But the way you install, the way you run UV is the same across all these platforms. So I'm going to say, I'm going to type that, and because I've been doing it regularly, the scripts are there in memory. So I don't have to memorize anything, but in case you're confused as usual, just like I did, I mean, it happens to me quite a lot. You just go to ChatGPT or any large language model of your choosing. Maybe you have one installed locally in your system, or you have Claude, or you have DeepSeek, whatever you have, just go and ask it, how do I do this? How do I activate my environment on my Windows or my Mac OS? So I don't have to memorize all of this. You can see it's there. I can just say venv scripts activate, and I will just hit enter. And the way you know it's been activated, is you'll see there's a difference. This one here has only base, but this one has base and the name of the folder in which we're in, which is called UV packaging. Remember when I was creating this directory before I fired up my Visual Studio Code, I chose the name UV packaging. So that has appeared here. That means this folder here is used as our environment, and we will see that we have this .venv folder in the directory we're working with. It shows this is where the environment is, and this is where we are activating it. If you want to choose a special name for your environment, you could do that. I don't choose any name for my environment. I allow it to give me the default name, which is .venv. One of the reasons why I do that is because if you take a look at your git ignore, you will see that it is included here because I don't want to upload the environment onto my GitHub repo. If anybody is going through my project and wants to use the same dependencies that I have, one of the things that they can do is to download the repo, and they will they find a way of syncing this. It's all described on the site that UV so generously has kept for us online. you'll see how to sync a project so that all the packages that you are going to install in your environment is going to be the same with that from which the project was built upon. So that's what I do. And what can we do? We can now run this main here. This was given to us. We didn't work on that. You can run it in multiple ways. One way to run it is to, if you click on this icon here, that's like the play button of our old tape recorders. You'll see one that says run code. And if you run it, it will share with you hello from UV package. That means the code successfully ran. That means from your environment, the Python you've installed, which is 3.113, has been run successfully. Another way to run this is another one here, run as a Python file. That one will run on the terminal. And let's see if it works. Yep. Hello from UV packaging shows it's working. And since I also installed IP widgets, you could just run it as if it were a Jupyter notebook. That is one of the reasons why I'm actually switching from Jupyter notebooks to using VS Code, because I don't need to run notebooks anymore. I could do everything in VS Code. And if I highlight everything, I'll go for Shift and Enter, and then a console will open on my right-hand side. And it's going to show whether this code is going to run successfully or not. And it is running. You can see the Python we're using for this project is Python 3.11. It wants to install a few things. Okay, I didn't install some of these things. Yeah, that was a mistake. So it wants to help me install them. There's no installer. Okay, so there's an error. So I'm going to correct that. Let me see, what did they say we should run? IPy kernel. This is the one I'm supposed to run. So I'm going to copy that. Control C. I'm going to come here and let me see. I'm going to check my pyproject.toml. These are the dependencies I have. I have API widgets. I thought that was what I was installing. I actually installed the wrong package here, but that is not a problem. I'm going to go UV add, and I'm going to drop, sorry, that was wrong thing. I can't remember what to say. We should check. Let me check it. IPy. Yep, so that is it. I'm going to drop that there. And if we go back to our Py project, you can see our IPy kernel has been installed. This must be the latest one. And it's done. So again, I'm going to close this panel, and I'll close this and possibly close this too. It's been installed like we've seen. I'll highlight everything and run that. Shift and Enter. Shift. We're having problems again. Sorry about that. Sometimes if I have this kind of issues, I'll just close VS Code, come back, run it back up again. Everything we've done stored in there. Cool. So I think it's done. It's booting up. Let's wait for it to settle down. You can see our environment has been selected. 3.11.3 or 3.11.3, whichever one. And Python has bottom part is not set. Please set it in vscode settings. Why is it giving me that error? Oh, okay. It's a different dependency giving me that error, so it's a different dependency. So I'm going to run that. I'm going to do Shift and Enter. And we can see on my right-hand side, a panel came up. You can see our environment here is correct. Our .venv is Python 3.11.3, and it's done. It has run, and it says hello from UV packaging. So that is all I have for us today. If you want to switch to UV, UV is excellent. I love it. I use it almost every day for every package, for every project I'm working on. I download UV is already installed on my system. I just go right ahead and add all my dependencies using UV, initialize it first, add the dependencies, and begin to work on my project. And like I said, on this channel, except a different situation presents itself where I have to use something else apart from UV, I will be using UV, and I'll try to show everything I do step by step. We have already installed it. I won't have to show that installation anymore. This is what I have for us today, and if you find this video interesting and educative, then please, I will ask you to hit the like button and also subscribe so that if I have other videos that I'm releasing, you would get notified when it's done. Thank you and have a wonderful day.